Hi there, Alex McIvor with Dunnigan Realtors bringing you another Sacramento housing market update. Big news for me is this is the third time I've recorded this video, and the first two times I had horrible audio, so I've upgraded to this nice mic. So hopefully it will sound a little bit better. The first topic I want to talk about is supply. We're entering spring. Actually, we've already entered it, and we're seeing a lot more listings hitting the market. That's kind of what we would expect normally. Spring is kind of the start of the busy season for real estate. We're definitely seeing more. We're not seeing as many as last year. There's still a lot more demand, but hopefully it's starting to pick up and there's at least some more options. I'll post a link in the show notes, but there's an article I read from MSNBC talking about how March listings were down 20% nationally from where they were in 2020. So more listings hitting, but still not quite enough. So locally here in Sacramento, our months of inventory is still below 1. We're at last month was around 0.5. And that's kind of a weird statistic, but basically it's just saying, hey, if we stopped listing any homes today, how long would we have before the demand has eaten up all of those? So as it stands now, we're at about a half a month, so 2 weeks before we don't have any more listings. To put that into perspective, around 4 to 6 months is kind of considered where a more balanced market would be between buyers and sellers. Below that, it's more of a seller's market, and above that, it's more of a buyer's market. So you could see we're about as low as you can go. I think we're tied for the second lowest in kind of recent memory, tied for lowest with December also being at 0.5. But sales have actually been up despite fewer listings. So here's a graph from Ryan Lundquist, the Sacramento appraiser. I'll post a link to his blog. He has a ton of great information. March, there were 10% more sales than there were last year, and it's actually been up more sales for 10 months in a row, which is kind of counterintuitive because we keep talking about how there's so few listings, but it's just because there's so much demand, all of the available listings are getting sold right away. So the next topic I want to talk about is price growth. So we're just continuing to increase the median house price here in Sacramento. So for March, it was at $530,000. That's up over $100,000 from January of 2020. So that's a little over a year. And then it was $418,000. So it's gone up over $110,000 in a little over a year, which is just insane. It's not really sustainable, but we don't know how long it's going to continue. When it does stop, is it just going to flatten out? Or is there going to be a crash? I don't personally think so, but I mean, you just never know. So that last graph was showing you from a little over a year, and then this graph right here again from Ryan Lundquist is showing you all the way back to 2017. So it gives you a more of a wider range view, and you could kind of see, hey, over 4 or 5 years, we're looking at the median house price here was below 350. So we've dramatically increased over these last 4 years, but with a lot of that, growth coming in this past year, and a lot of that's going to be fueled by the, just the demand far outstripping the supply. The next topic I want to talk about is competitive situations. So that's any time that there's more than one offer on a home, which if it's priced correctly and it's a nice house and, not in the multiple millions of dollars, is almost going to be every house here in Sacramento given the current market. I'm going to talk about this in a longer video, just this topic, because there's a lot to dive in, but I just briefly wanted to hit on a few things that you should be considering when you're making offers. So number one are the fees. So those four fees are going to be the city and county transfer tax, the escrow fee, and the owner's title policy. So these are four fees that you would normally negotiate, and in a buyer's market, the seller would probably pick up most, if not all of those. In a seller's market, like we're seeing here, I'm recommending, my clients split all of them, if not pick up all of them. That seems to be what it's taking to get stuff done here. If you're not touching those, it's definitely tougher to win. The next big thing, contingencies. Make sure you're reducing your inspection contingency for sure. 17 days standard, and that's just too long to be competitive in this market. The next two contingencies are loan and appraisal. Make sure your agent or yourself that you're talking to a lender, your lender, and seeing what their timeframes are like and what you could reduce it down to and what they could be confident doing. How short they could confidently fund a loan and kind of get through that process. So you could be as competitive as possible, but you don't want to say, hey, we'll do it in 12 days and then tell your lender that, and then they're like, no, we're at 21 days. And then you're going to have to either remove that contingency without knowing it's going to go for sure, or cancel early, and you're just kind of in a tricky situation then. Lastly, just make sure everything's buttoned up. Dot your I's, cross your T's. If the house is, vacant, don't offer a rent back. If they say they're not reading buyer letters, don't send one. That kind of stuff. You just want to make sure that, you're showing that you're as competent as possible and that you're going to be easy to work with. So talking about competitive situations, I'm even seeing it in new construction. So typically the process with new construction is, you get pre-approved via one of their lenders and you get put on a list, and they give you a call once, a model that you said you're interested in comes online, and they'll say, hey, are you still interested? And then you buy it at that price, and, you kind of go through the process. But we're seeing with some builders that they are now just saying to everyone, hey, we're releasing some homes. Everyone bid, like it's, just a normal competitive situation, and we'll call you if you won. So that's another way that we're seeing that this crazy market and lack of supply is now changing how things are done a little bit. So mortgage rates rose last month, but they've kind of fallen back down to a little over 3%. It seems like we're kind of hovering in that range, just a little bit over 3%. You could still certainly get some, depending on your credit and who you go to. I've still seen some sub 3%. Doesn't seem like we're going to rise too quickly, but I would imagine 3 to 2.8%. Those are phenomenal rates. You should be happy with either of those if you could get it. But eventually I would imagine we're going to keep rising up. But I don't think that that's going to happen too quickly. Okay, so just for a quick recap, market's still crazy hot. Prices are increasing like crazy, and there's more supply coming onto the market, but it doesn't quite seem to be enough. But there are still a few more options now that's going to be competitive, but at least there's 5 homes in the neighborhood that you like instead of just 2 coming on in a week. All right, guys, that's all I have for you this month. If you found this video helpful or informative at all, please give me a like or subscribe. It's super helpful. If you have any questions, put a comment down below. Reach out to me via phone, email, or social media, which I also have down below. And yeah, feel free to reach out whenever. I'm always happy to chat. And until next time, this has been Alex McIvor with Dunnigan Realtors. Have a good one.